Welcome to Wheelock's Chapter 9. Let's take a look at what this chapter entails. Today we'll be looking at demonstrative pronouns and special IUS adjectives. Let's take a look at demonstrative pronouns. A little bit of review in case it's been a while since you've done English grammar, but demonstrative pronouns are pronouns that point out things that are near or far away from the speaker. We get the word demonstrate from demonstrati, which means to point out. So again, these pronouns are nouns or pronouns that point out things that are near or far away from the speaker. In English, this includes words like this or that. The boy ate this apple, or the king destroyed that army. Plural of this would be these, and plural of that would be those. Now, in Latin, we distinguish between these things that are near the speaker, or those things which are near the person that is being spoken to, or those things that are far away from the person being spoken to. So the word this in Latin is haec, and again, that refers to the thing closest to the speaker. If he wants to refer to something that is far away from him but close to the person he is speaking to, he would use the word iste, which translates to that in English. And again, if he wants to refer to something that is far away from the person being spoken to, he would use the word illud. And again, this is translated as that. Now, we'll look at these forms in their complete declension here in just a minute. But we need to note that these demonstrative pronouns generally follow the declension pattern of first and second declension adjectives. In other words, us, but they will have a unique but consistent exception. In the genitive singular, it becomes an IUS, and in the dative, it's either an I or an IC. So if you could imagine the adjective bonus aum, a first declension, second declension adjective, bonus, bona, bonum, in the masculine, feminine, and neuter. And if you were to decline this down, going down nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, in the masculine, the endings would be us, e, o, o. Feminine would be I, and neuter would be e, o, o. That's the consistent pattern that you've learned for first and second declension. Well, again, these demonstrative pronouns will follow that pattern with the exception of genitive and dative, and they will have this slight variation, but it's consistent in both masculine and all three, masculine, feminine, neuter. Genitive becomes IUS. And then in all three, masculine, feminine, neuter, the dative either becomes an I or an IC. Let's take a look and see what this looks like in practicality. So here is hic, haec, hoc. This is this and these in the plural form. Now, I just need to say on the outset, you're just going to have to memorize these patterns. You're just going to have to memorize it. That's all it is. It's all it comes down to, that if you want to master this, you've got to master this chart, memorize this chart. But I want to show you that it's actually not as bad or daunting as it appears. So for this memorization chart, we're actually going to go in the singular across the column, from nominative masculine to nominative feminine to nominative neuter, and then down to genitive, then down to dative, accusative, and ablative. And it goes something like this. Hic, haec, hoc. Whis, whis, whis. Whick, whick, whick. Hunk, hunk, hook. Hook, hock, hook. Now, a couple of things I want you to notice. First off, in the genitive, let me toggle back to there. Whis, whis, whis. Here the I is actually acting as a consonant rather than a vowel, and it's like a Y sound. So whis, whis, whis. All right? And then in the dative, whick, whick, whick. Hunk, hunk, hook in the accusative. And if you notice in the ablative, all three of these in the masculine, feminine, neuter do have a macron over the vowel. So you have hook, hock, hook. So just to elongate that vowel sound, since it's a long sound, twice as long as you would hold it. So the difference between nominative neuter, hook, and ablative neuter, hook. Just kind of hold it out twice as far. And so again, hic, haec, hoc, whis, 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 quick, 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 hunk, honk, hook, and hoke, hock, haec. So I would encourage you to practice those, again, going across laterally, masculine, feminine, neuter, then all the way down from nominative to ablative. Now, the plural will not be a problem. And for this, we're actually going to go down because this is simply the masculine and feminine and neuter endings, for the most part, in the plural. And all we're going to do is add an H. So if you remember, your masculine endings were e, orum, is, os, is. Well, we're just adding an H to that. So it's he, horum, his, hos, his. And then for the feminine, again, the endings for first declension feminine was I, aurum, is, as, is. And so we're going to add an H to those, and we end up with hi, harum, his, has, his. Now, neuter is almost exactly what you'd expect. If you remember, your neuter endings were a, orum, is, a, is. Here it is an AEC, so again, you'll have to memorize this variation, but it's haec, horum, his, haec, his. So again, we'll work down. He, horum, his, hos, his, hi, harum, his, has, his, haec, horum, his, haec, his. So this is the demonstrative pronoun. In the singular, it's this, and in the plural, it is these. So this is the chart that you'll want to memorize. You'll want to spend some time here, pause this, and say them out loud several times and work on memorizing these. You might want to, after a few minutes, try writing them down from memory. First, do the singular, again, going across the top, hic, haec, hoc, whis, 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 etc. And then do the plural going down, masculine, he, horum, his, hos, his, feminine, hi, harum, his, has, his, etc. Now, again, this word means this, and it's referring to this thing that is close to the speaker as they are speaking. Now, if you get this chart memorized, then the next two demonstrative pronouns are easy peasy. So let's take a look at this. This is the word that, iste, ista, istud, and it means that thing near you. If I'm speaking to you, I want you to pick up that book, and it's the book that's sitting right next to you, that book, iste. Now, again, you're going to work across laterally, masculine nominative, feminine nominative, and neuter nominative. And again, notice the pattern here. Iste, ista, istud. You're going to memorize the nominative, iste, ista, istud. And then if you'll notice, your genitive is the same ius that we expected earlier, or we saw earlier in hic, haec, hoc, but we're adding the prefix ist. So istuis, 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 isti, 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 istum, istam, istud, isto, ista, isto. Now here's what I want you to look at. In the accusative, your ending for masculine accusative singular is For feminine accusative singular, it's And so that's exactly what you have here. And in the masculine ablative, it's o. And in feminine ablative, it's a long a. And that's exactly what you have here. Same thing with neuter ablative. It's o, and you have that o here. Now, we do have the neuter rule in play. So whatever is in the nominative neuter will also be in the accusative neuter. And so istud is in the nominative. Therefore, in the accusative, we have istud. So once again, it's iste, ista, istud. Istuis, istuis, istuis. Isti, isti, isti. Istum, istam, istud. Isto, ista, isto. So again, if you just remember the rule, genitive has an ius and dative has an I, or as the hic, haec, hoc showed us, it's actually an IC, but here it's just the I. And then everything else should be as you would normally expect. The and then the neuter rule in the accusative, and then o, a, o in the ablative. So once again, iste, ista, istud, istuis, 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 isti, 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 istum, istam, istud, isto, ista, isto. Now again, the plural is going to function exactly as we'd expected here. We're going to go down this time again, just like we did with hic, haec, hoc, masculine. We're adding the e, orum, is, os, is, simply to an ist prefix, leaving us isti, istorum, istis, istos, istis. For the feminine, again, we add I, aurum, is, as, is to the ist prefix. We end up with isti, istarum, istis, istas, istis. And then finally, for neuter plural, to our regular neuter endings in the plural, a, orum, is, a, is. We add the ist prefix, and we end up with ista, istorum, istis, ista, istis. So again, that's pretty consistent. If you've got the hic, haec, hoc, this should not pose any problems at all. Again, assuming you know your first and second declension endings. So again, this iste, ista, istud means that in the singular or those in the plural, referring to that thing near the person you're speaking to. Now finally, the last one we'll look at is ille, illah, illud. It follows the exact pattern as iste, ista, istud. We're just replacing the ist with an ill. Ill. Ille, illah, illud. Here we go. Elois, Elois, Elois. Eli, Eli, Eli. Alum, alam, illud. Alo, Allah, alo. Exact pattern. You could basically take that same chart you just did, copy it completely, and just replace the ist with an ill, and you've got it. And again, in the plural, we'll go down in the masculine. Eli, alorum, elise, alos, elise. For the feminine, ali, alarum, elise, alas, elise. And again, for the neuter, elah, alorum, elise, allah, elise. Again, this means that in the singular or those in the plural. And again, it's referring to that thing far away from you or far from the person that you're speaking to. Now, one way that people memorize this, because it can be confusing, which is it? Is that near me, or is it near the person that I'm talking to? Is it far away from the person I'm talking to? Here's one way to remember this. If it's ill, like an illness, you want it far away. And if it's a stud, he's like a good-looking guy or a good-looking girl, you want him or her sort of close to you. Ista, iste, istud is near the person you're speaking to. And if it's an illness, ille, illah, illud, you want it far away from the person you're speaking to. So that may be one tool you could use to help you memorize. Maybe you come up with something different, and it's a little silly, but that has seemed to help students over the years. So take the time to memorize these, work on memorizing the charts, saying them orally, and I would take the time to copy them down and see how you do. Now, the last grammar concept we want to look at very quickly in Chapter 9 is special IUS adjectives. Let's take a look at this. There are some special adjectives, there are 9 of them specifically in Latin, that follow this pattern of normally being a first and second declension adjective. However, in the genitive, it's an IUS ending, and in the dative, it's an I ending. So this is similar to what you just learned with demonstrative pronouns, but it's for these adjectives. There's 9 specific of them. So this is in the singular, genitive, and dative, but again, in the plural, it's going to act exactly as it would for the plural first and second declension adjective endings. And the way you can memorize these 9 specific adjectives is this acrostic, unus nauta. Of course, that's just a weird phrase, means one sailor, means nothing, but it's just a way of helping you memorize these specific adjectives. And so number 1, it's the word unus a which means one. And so in the genitive, it's going to be unius and uni in the dative. Other than that, it's going to be exactly as you would expect a first and second declension adjective. I'm not going to go through all of these forms, but you've got N for nullus aum, which means no one, ullus aum, which means any, solus aum, which means alone or only. And then for the nauta, you've got neuter, neutra, neutrum, which means neither, alius, alia, illud, which means another or other, uter, utra, atrum, either or which of two, and then totus aum, whole or entire. And by the way, I believe there should be a macron over that O in totus. I'll have to fix that. And then alter, altera, alterum means the other of two. So all of these 9 adjectives will differ or vary from the normal first and second declension adjective forms in the genitive and dative singular, with an IUS for genitive and an I for dative. And these are all part of your vocabulary list for Chapter 9. So take the time to learn your vocabulary. Be ready for a quiz on Tuesday night. Have a great day.